thank you so much, sir, for giving us the opportunity today to hear your thoughts on education. It would be great, sir, if you can give a short summary of yourself and your experience until now in the education industry.
Yeah, thank you. I am Professor Renu Karya, basically Professor of Economics. I have served as Professor of Economics in the University of Mysore for about 35 years. Later, right now I am the Director of Mahajana Postgraduate Center. Mahajana group of institution is a reputed group of institutions in the city of Mysore, which has a history of 80 years. We are 80-year-old in the field of education. So I'm the founder director of the postgraduate wing of Mahajana Education Institutions. So in the postgraduate wing, we offer number of courses. We have about 1,000 students. And we have postgraduate courses in almost all the streams. Say, for example, science, we have master's degree and PhD program in science degree. So we have science programs like biotechnology, microbiology, biochemistry, chemistry, computer science, etc. And in social sciences, we have social work, and in management, we have MBA as well as commerce, master's degree programs. And in tourism, we have master's degree in tourism. Besides that, we offer bachelor's degree on the campus in specialized areas such as forensic science, tourism, food processing, and then geology, like that. So we have students from different parts of the country also. Till last year, we had students from abroad also. Because of COVID and other things, now we do not have foreign students as of now. Otherwise, we have foreign students also. I am the director of that institute. So I have 50 years of experience in the field of education. So I have published widely, and I specialize in economics and management. So I have published almost about 40 books and more than 100 articles in reputed journals. Besides, I have guided about 20 students towards their PhD, and many students for their MPhil degree. So right now, also I teach economics to master's degree students in Mysore city. So that's my background.
Right.
About our institution, as I mentioned earlier, we are one of the oldest institutions in Mysore city. We have different programs. Ours is an exclusive campus with 20 acres of land. But apart from that, we have many other branches where we offer undergraduate programs in science, commerce, management, etc. And we have a law college also. We have a pre-university college. We have a high school, and we have a nursery school as well. So right from nursery to PhD, we offer programs. We have about around 5,000 students all put together, and we have a good management which is proactive and which promotes education and the cause of education in Mysore city. This is the brief background of our institution and myself.
Great, sir. So then my next question for you would be, being the director of Mahajana First Grade College, what is your philosophy of leadership and how would you describe your leadership style?
Basically, we believe in preparing our students to serve the nation. Our motto is enter to learn and depart to serve. That's our motto of the institution. So we believe in all-round development of the students. It's not just a degree that we offer, but we develop the personality And in the main, ethical aspect is stressed to a very great extent. And students are encouraged to become full-fledged citizens of the country once they pass out the portals of the institution. So there is a lot of demand for our institution from the point of getting a seat and getting educated. So our students bag a number of ranks in the university. Most of the university ranks are bagged by our students, particularly girl students. Majority of the ranks are earned by the girl students. And there is a lot of emphasis on gender equality in our institution. We encourage girl students to a very great extent to study. We help them in various aspects. So students from economically weaker sections are offered scholarships. They are offered financial help. They are given concessions, etc. So we also cater to the needs of the handicapped students, that is physically challenged students. So we give them extra tuition and all that. And apart from that, we believe in skill development. It is not just a bookish education or rote education, as they call it. It's the skill development in which we have a lot of faith. Say, for example, we have a wing in our postgraduate department called as NAIN Center, New Age Incubation Networking Center. So it is a center granted by Government of Karnataka for skill development. So here the students come and they tell their ideas. They just tell their ideas regarding the any production for that matter. So whatever project they have in mind, they come and discuss it with a mentor, and the mentor will develop it into a project, a productive project, and then it is submitted to the government. Government every year funds 30 lakhs of rupees for these projects. They select 10 projects, and then 10 students are asked to develop the productive units. And then they can, if they so desire, they can sell their patent to the industry. So this way, we develop skills amongst the students. We have skill-based education in the areas of tourism, hotel management, and then forensic science, geology. All these are professional-oriented courses, unlike the general BSc, BA, BCom. Of course, we offer those courses, but the emphasis is on professional courses. It's not like engineering. Engineering is a 4-year degree program. But these programs are meant for general degree students. So those who do their +2, they can get into, say, for example, forensic science BSc, or food processing BSc, or geology BSc, or tourism, or hotel management, like that. So such courses are offered by Mahajanas, which are very special to Mahajanas. Such courses are not offered even by the university. So these are called as specialized programs. And Mysore University gives the degree, of course, but the students are encouraged to take up skill-oriented degree programs rather than the routine BA, BSc, BCom students. There is a lot of demand for such programs. So students are encouraged in all aspects. Our students win lots of laurels in sports. In Mysore University sports, our students excel normally, and they participate in national and international seminars. And if students want to participate in international conferences, etc., partial funding is done by the management. A girl went to Japan and presented her paper in one of the scientific conferences, and part of the expenses were met by the management. So even this type of encouragement is there even for staff. They can go and present their papers in the international seminars. Most of our teachers in the postgraduate departments are engaged in research. So they publish their papers in UGC recognized journals, and then it's mandatory also. Every teacher has to make a publication, at least one publication every year in the UGC recognized journal. So they do that. So these are the features of our institution.
Great, sir. So, the next question I'd like to ask you is the education systems in India and other foreign countries are structured very differently. In your experience, what can an inbound student gain from studying here in your institute?
You know, this is a wonderful question. I have traveled all over the world. I have been a professor in Canada, so I know the Western education system. And in my personal feeling, such a system can never fit into our system. It is totally different. So Indian education system is totally different from the Western education system. And in my personal view, there is no need to copy that also. So we have to develop our own system. And the new education policy, which is unveiled right now by the government of India, which Karnataka government is also keen to follow, is a wonderful education policy. So it aims at developing the skills among the students. You know, the skills that are needed for India are totally different from the skills that are needed in the Western part of the world. So our country is, the basic features of our country is totally different from the features of the Western system. Ours is majority of our people are, dependent on agricultural related issues. And most of them are employed in the agriculture sector. Majority of the people live in rural areas and they draw their livelihood from the rural areas. So we failed in developing scientific research which would have made our country very rich in terms of agricultural production and agricultural exports. Unfortunately, it has not happened. So we copied the Western system and we thought that manufacturing system will help us to develop our economy, and big corporates will help us to develop our economy. So we have to develop big industries. All these thoughts were put in the beginning. So lately we have realized that is not the model which we have to follow. Our model should be totally different. In the first place, the medium of instruction issue. Still we are clinging on to English as a medium of instruction, which is not helping our students at all. They have never mastered English and it's not our language. And in no part of the world, the students are taught through a language which is not theirs. So English is not my language. Say, for example, in Karnataka, Kannada is the language and students should learn through Kannada. So our new education policy lays emphasis on the regional languages. So now onwards, children will start learning through regional language, and it is possible, creative thinking is possible only through regional language. So it is not possible through an aligned language, a foreign language. So we are re-engineering the whole education system now. Now onwards, children will learn through regional language up to a particular point. Then onwards, such of the fellows who want to specialize or go abroad, etc., they will learn maybe English or French or Japanese or whatever language in which they would be interested. So we have to reorient the whole education system. As a director of the institute, I have found out that our children have not been bestowed with the command over English. So they are lacking in English, and they do not fit into corporate sector so easily because of the handicap that they have in language. and they cannot, creatively think through a foreign language. So all these complications and confusions exist, and our new education policy, which is going to come into effect from this year onwards in Karnataka, which has been categorically declared by the government that we are going to implement this, lots of changes will take place. Change number one, instruction will be through their regional language. Change number two, no longer the teaching and learning will be through the bookish type. Children will not just reproduce whatever they have learned and all that. On the other hand, they will be infused skills. So right from the primary school, the government thinks that the student should be in a position to develop, the digital. They will enter into the world of digital era, and they will be in a position to develop the apps and all these things right from their childhood. And today, even a small kid is capable of handling the digital. A change will be there in the education system towards making them digitally educated, and they would start revolutionizing the whole system because the thinking process will come into effect. Till now, it was not there. Till now, a student used to learn through English. He used to pass his SSLC, then go to PUC, then go to a degree, and then search for a job, which was not there. So unemployment was of very, very huge order. Even today, our country faces tremendous challenges in the area of employment. We have not been able to provide employment to all our graduates because they do not possess specific skills. So now onwards, it will change. So the student will not very care much about our marks. What we will care is even in their marks cards, now onwards, we will mention the level of skill that he or she has acquired in the course of her study. What level of skill he or she possesses in the third year of degree or fourth year of degree, we will mention that in their marks card. So they will be in a position to get a job on the basis of the marks that they have, not on the marks that they have, but on the basis of the skill that they have acquired. It may be a lab technician, it may be a nurse, it may be a hotel manager, it may be a geologist, it may be something, but he will have some skill once he passes out of the portals of the college. So it will not be very difficult for him to get a job. And then we will reorient our system towards agriculture. So how to increase the agricultural productivity? Because our per hectare productivity is one of the lowest in the world. Though we have been agriculture-based economy, we cannot compare our per hectare productivity either with Japan or some other country because the per hectare productivity is very low. So per person productivity is very low. So we have to increase per hectare productivity. We have to export agricultural-based commodities to the entire world. We have to reinvent the various techniques that are required in the agricultural field. And also we have strengthened our villages through our youth, because India is a country which has 60 to 70% of youth. We have demographic advantage. So we have to provide employment for them. So it is only in the agricultural sector where we can provide lots of employment to them, not in the industrial sector. It is very difficult. Cities cannot take this load any longer. So they are at the verge of explosion. So they should stay in the villages, make use of the education that they have, produce goods and services at the villages, and cater to the needs of the place in which they are born, etc., etc. It's only a small fraction which will move towards urban areas, which will go abroad. So such things will happen in course of time, and our education system should be driven towards that, and it should be re-engineered and reoriented towards that. And that will happen with our new education policy.
Right, sir. So how does the curriculum of Mahajana First Grade College ensure the best practices of the industry?
You see, we are not very much worried about industry as such. We are worried about the society. Okay. So it is not Mahajana's aim to produce graduates to get into corporate sector and work there. It's our aim to produce entrepreneurs who are capable of producing something. They themselves will become entrepreneurs. They themselves will develop skills and then serve the society also. So that is our broader aim. Our aim is not confined just to produce graduates who meet the needs of the corporate sector or some industry XYZ. That's not our intention at all. So we plan to develop skills on the one hand, and also we plan to develop ideologies in the minds of the students who can think, what is it that I can give to the society? How I can help the needy people? How I can help the deprived section of the people? So these are the lines on which we are thinking. It's not like an engineering college which produces graduates just to get into the industrial sector or the corporate sector, like that. So we have broader ideologies and we work on that. That's our main intention, rather than producing graduates who fill the requirements of the corporate sector.
Great.
Say, for example, we have a specialized program called as Corporate Social Responsibility, CSR. So even some of our graduates take their degree in that, and they enter into corporate sector. Just as you know, 2% of the profit of the industries now should go to the society, social work. It's mandatory now as per the central government requirement. So now our graduates will think how best the CSR funds can be utilized to uplift the needy people. So they will fill in these managerial positions in the corporate sector. They will have an MBA in CSR. They will fill in such positions, and they will work as to how best they can use this fund to help the needy sections of the people.
Got it, sir. So, what do you think should be Mahajana First Grades College's top priority over the next 10 years?
Yes, it is. And we know one more thing is, we are an autonomous college. Okay, we are bestowed with autonomy from the University Grants Commission, UGC. So we have absolute freedom to design our syllabi, to design our courses, offer any degree which we want. Okay, so we design such degrees which are in need of the society, where our students can really serve, where our students can be really productive. So we reorient our syllabi every year, and we keep in mind what society needs. And according to the needs of the society, we design our syllabi. And on our boards of studies, we invite the prominent people of the society, prominent people from the industrial sector, from the various sectors of the economy, and we redesign our syllabi. And our students study the latest developments in different areas. Of course, the degree is offered by Mysore University itself, but we are an autonomous college and we have the freedom to design the syllabi. And we offer many courses which are not there in the university itself.
Okay, sir. So, what would you like people to know about your institute that they may not know about?
Pardon?
What would you like people to know about your institute they may not know about?
You know, many people do not know that we offer specialized programs like tourism, hotel management, food processing, and then forensic science. Many people do not know about this, number one. Number two, many parents do not know its importance. So when they come to me, they say, you give me a seat for General BCom, General BBM. So even if I explain to them that, no, skill development is more important nowadays. You put your child to this, we will see that he will get an employment immediately after graduation, which is not guaranteed in general BCom, BBA, etc. But their mindset is so that they can never understand and appreciate the skill development courses which are offered our institution. So we want to take this to the society, take this to the people, convince them that these are all very important courses. So people still think that the traditional courses are more important than the skill development programs. So that's the mindset that we have. So that should change. Even now when the parents come to me, they tell me, somehow you get a seat to my son for engineering. So you please use your influence and get a seat in an engineering. I tell them, why do you want to put your son to an engineering who will end up as an unemployed engineer? There are already lakhs and lakhs of engineering graduates. You put him to tourism department and he gets a job immediately after his graduation. But they say, no, we want a seat in engineering only. So mindset has to change and it takes a lot of time. And we want the people to understand that they should put their children into newer courses, new areas, where it fetches employment for them. Not only that, they will be more useful to the society. A BCom fellow just ends up as a clerk. A BBM fellow just ends up in an ordinary position. Whereas a graduate in tourism fellow ends up maybe in New York or maybe in USA as a tour manager. Or he can start his own tourism unit. One of our girl students who graduated in tourism, she has started her own industry, her own company now in Mysore, and she arranges tours for housewives. So housewives, they will not have opportunity to tour. They will not be knowing the places to which they can go and all that. So this girl helps them to tour. Of course, this year she is not doing well because of COVID. But when she started, she had lots of demands from housewives and she arranged tours for so many people, housewives exclusively. So it was a very useful program. Not only that she could stand on her own legs, but she could help many people in the society. So like that, it's only an example. One more student has started his company in tourism. So tourism is an area which is thriving like anything. Hotel management is an area which is thriving. Geology is thriving. Forensic science is of very great importance today. We want people to know that Mahajanas is offering such programs, and we want parents to understand that they are more important than general courses or engineering course. So particularly we want to encourage girl students, because girl students should be employed in our country and they should get more and more employment in different areas. So that's our main aim, and we are working towards that.
Great, sir. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you see, both for higher education in general and for Mahajana First Grade College specifically?
The greatest challenge that we have is about resources. As I said, we are society oriented, therefore we do not charge too much of fees. So, resource crunch is there. We are not an aided institution. Government doesn't fund our courses. So we have to collect fee from the students and run the entire institution. So we cannot charge too much fee also, because we cater to all sections of the people. It's not just the elite section which we serve. We serve all sections of the people, poorest of the poor even. And then we have been able to make hand-to-mouth existence. So resource is one of the greatest constraints that we have. So we look forward for the government to fund us. So if it can fund us to some extent, it is going to be a big help, but it cannot happen because government has its own problems, and it has categorically stated that it will not come forward to help the private students as far as the infrastructure expenses and others are concerned. So it is difficult for any private college in Karnataka to expand in terms of infrastructure, scientific laboratories, hostel buildings, etc., etc. So resource is one of the greatest challenges. Number two, the challenge is, since we admit all sorts of students, in the sense that we admit the highly merited student also and the average student also. So the average students cannot compete with the highest merit students. So there is always a disparity between these two. Now our challenge is how to meet this, because they come from different background and they are not equal. Therefore, how to bridge this gap is another challenge that we are facing in our institution. So these are some of the challenges which we have to address in due course of time.
So, any suggestions you would like to give to the current youth and the aspiring students?
Yeah. Youth is our resource today. Youth is the biggest capital that we have in our country. So all the challenges that we have is to put the youth on right track so that they can become productive and contribute to the development of the country. So the development of the country depends upon right type of education and character building. So if we can meet these two, it will be possible for us to build a very strong nation. So ethics is most important nowadays. So the corruption is one of the greatest challenges our country is facing, and youth should not fall prey to that. And they should, they should be non-corrupt, and they should be patriotic, and they should get they should go in search of right type of education, and they should build a full-fledged personality so that they can contribute for the development of the nation. There is absolutely no doubt in the fact that India is going to emerge as one of the strongest economies in the world in due course of time, because we have youth power, which is not there in other countries. We have educated manpower. Because of the population we have, we are a highly populated country. So even if one portion is highly educated, highly productive, highly skill oriented, then it is possible for us to build our nation and take our nation to greater heights very easily. So such an opportunity is there now for our youth, which was not there, because now it is possible for the youth to earn a lot of money if they have intelligence, if they are productive, if they have ideas. Ideas themselves is capital now. They know they don't need money capital. As you know, many of the biggest, largest companies, they do not have an office even. They work from home or they work without an office. Ola, for example, does not own even a single vehicle, but it operates one of the largest, movements. So like that, ideas, Alibaba, from China, who started as just a teacher, a multimillionaire now. So like that, in our own country, we have many people who have ideas. Infosys, who started in a garage, Narayan Murthy, is one of the biggest industrialists now. Majumdar, Biocom. So she started her industry just in a shed. So India is full of intelligent people. Intellectual capacity is very high of Indians. Now we have to channelize that to productive units with character. So if we can do that, we are going to become one of the strongest nations in the world in due course of time. Nobody can prevent that. So that should happen And only thing is we should move in right direction. That's very important. If we deviate like earlier period, that we have wasted 70 years after our independence. We should have been in some other place. By this time, if we were to use our natural resources, our intellectual resources, we should have been somewhere else. We should have been number one in the world. It did not happen because of various reasons, but it doesn't matter. There is time for us still. So we can develop into a very strong nation in due course of time.